So we're out here at Death Track at Horsnells Gully on the patrol. Couple of rides in, I've had 2 rides on it. And today I'm just trying to get the suspension set up, playing with the rear shock. So we'll ignore the forks for now. Let's talk a little bit about troubleshooting with your rear suspension. So you've just bought a new bike or whatever, and you want to get it singing. You want to get it comfortable, ploughing, whatever. And yeah, maybe you're a little bit confused about adding compression, rebound, all of that stuff, tokens, all of that gear. So what I've done so far is I'm trusting that Transition sets this shock up. I've heard that they kind of custom tune it with spacers and whatnot. Set up, ready to party more or less. All you got to do is get your sag right and your rebound right and a little bit of compression. So it's got a low speed compression dial as well. So I've started with around the middle of their sag range recommended. So they recommend 20 to 23 millimeters. Started at 21 millimeters. I've gone down. Now I'm at their softest setting, so I've got 155 psi in there. What I was finding before with the setup, I haven't ridden it with this soft yet. I'm just on the way back up now. Been testing it on this little rock garden behind me. It's really good part of the track. It's kind of choppy on the way in and choppy on the way through, and then choppy into the next corner as well. So it really gives you an idea of what that rear end's doing. Before, when I was coming into the choppy stuff, instead of the back end going, I think I've talked about it before, instead of the back end coming up like this and my pedals staying level and my body staying level and me being able to thread the bike through and put the bike where I want it, it's the bike's not compliant enough, or with that setup's not compliant enough. So what it's doing is it's pushing my weight. So instead of it bouncing underneath me, it's actually pushing the whole bike. So the suspension's not compressing adequately, and it's changing my body position as I come through stuff, so I can't control the bike. So that's a symptom to me of being too firm in the spring. So if you're riding and you're finding you're getting pushed around or kicked, it's not necessarily your rebound's too fast. That can be part of it as well, but generally not. It's more so your spring's too stiff. So you come down on the spring, so soften the spring up a little bit, give that same section, as long as it's a hard, rough, or indicative of what you'd usually ride. So this is kind of indicative of what I'd usually ride, nice and rough, nice and fast. So I want my bike to be compliant, so I'm dropping the air pressure. So I've dropped a little bit of air pressure. Now, if I get that compliance, but I'm blowing through the travel, it doesn't mean I've gone too soft. It just means I need more ramp up at the end of the stroke. So what I'd do is I'd keep that lower air pressure and I'd add a token. So put a volume token in there, ride it again. You might find you can go even less pressure and keep it from bottoming out, and that'll give that initial feeling a lot more. It'll make it a lot more supple, and it'll make the bike feel more stable, because instead of, as you're going through these rough bits, instead of your bike going boom boom and pushing you forward, your pedals are staying level, your feet are staying level, and the bike's compressing underneath you. So the bike's doing all the work, suspension's doing all the work, but you're not getting pushed around, which means it doesn't matter how rough you get, you can still hold your body position and then use body language to turn the bike around and put the bike where you want it to be. So I've gone a little softer now. I didn't use all my travel that last run, didn't use it all on the big step down at the bottom, so I was close to using it all, but not all of it. Still felt really supportive, so I feel like I've got room with the amount of volume spaces that are in there to go a little softer. So this is 155. I'm not going to bother with the forks at the moment. Let's see how this goes. Oh, also, rebound. If you're finding that you're having to slow the rebound right down in order to stop it from being choppy, and you're at real slow and not really active, it's costing you grip. So a slow rebound will always kind of cost you grip, but there's different ways to set your bike up. If you want compliance, the way I'm talking about now is kind of the way I like to do it. But if you just want flat out carrying speed everywhere, Smoother Trails is perfect for that. Carrying speed everywhere, you would go stiffer in that spring and slow the rebound right down, so you're not getting that. When it does happen, you're not really getting sprung. It's kind of getting, that effort's getting lost in the rebound a little bit. It doesn't do this, it doesn't oscillate. So if you're going to run it stiff, you've got to run that rebound nice and slow. I don't really like that feeling. I like the faster rebound, which softens all the hits up, but in order to run the fast rebound, you've got to have your sag right. You've got to have that spring force right. The spring can't be pushing you around. So let's see how we go. So I just did a full run with it set up at 155 at the back. Rebound about center of the adjustability. So reasonably quick, but not quick. Compression all the way open. And the back end definitely felt better. There was a little bit more grip there. A little bit more compliance for sure. Wasn't getting pushed around as much, which is exactly what I'm looking for. I'd like it a little softer again, but I think I'm too deep in the sag. I don't know. Bottom step down, I've probably got 3 or 4 mil of stroke left, so maybe I could go a little bit softer. Still pedals efficiently at that setup, so I'm going to keep playing with it. What I'm going to do now, soften the fork up a little bit. Leave that back end as it is. I'm going to soften the fork a tiny bit. And then I'm going to go up and do a GoPro run and just kind of do a bit of a commentary on the way down of how it feels. I feel like the front end might be a bit high as well. I'm not too sure if I've got those bars up a little bit higher. So we'll see. Let's get a run in. So that was a run down with the shock the same, 155 PSI. I rolled the bars forward just a little bit, just a tiny bit, maybe a millimeter or two on the dial here, on the clamp. Forks were 71 PSI instead of 75. Everything else was the same, and it definitely felt better. The forks felt better, a little bit more controlled, and I came to the conclusion, as you'll see in the GoPro, that my front end's definitely a little bit too high. I'm just too tall at the front. It feels like I've got too much work to do to lean it over, whereas if you're lower, it just happens a little bit easier when you're leaning over and then leaning back over the other way. So I'll do that. I'll make that adjustment as well. I'll drop it down a spacer. I've got a heap of 5mm spacers here, so I'll go down 5mm, see how that feels, and go from there. So first impressions, I guess. It's definitely a fast bike. So as soon as I'm off the brakes, it carries wicked speed. It wants to get up to speed, it wants to go faster, but it's dragging me into stuff where I can't control it. So still don't have the forks dialed, and I definitely don't have this rear shock dialed. So the rear shock definitely feels better, but coming into stuff, it's still standing me up a little bit. When it gets a little bit, the lower speed rough stuff, it's still standing me up a little bit. So I'll address that. I'll keep playing with it. I might even go a little softer. I basically want to go keep going softer until I run out of travel, until I'm getting close to bottoming out. So that time, I'm a big step down at the bottom still. It's got a couple of millimeters, but it's very close to the end. It's very close to bottoming out. Didn't feel like it was bottoming out. Didn't feel soft or sluggish. So still got stuff to play with there. It's definitely not a jump on and ride fast bike. Definitely not. So a little bit of a surprise. I thought I'd be able to get on and just be singing, but not the case. So I'm comparing this. I've been riding my Remedy here a lot. My Remedy is absolutely dialed. So I'm kind of comparing this to that, and I'm comparing these forks to the Lyric with the Luft cap. Comparing the shock to how it feels with the Super Deluxe on the Remedy. There's more, the Remedy for now, more grip, more control, better through the corners, and the forks feel better. So I've got a bit of work to do to get it right, but I'm sure once I get it right, get all the minor bits and pieces in the setup right, I'll have a better idea of how this bike actually rides. So stay tuned, and yeah, we'll see how we go. And check out the GoPro video too, for sure.